Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Ulysses Meet the Expert episode. My name is Carla Maria Reale, and I am Senior Researcher at the Institute for Minority Rights at Eurac Research. Today, I'm going to talk to you about my research project, which is called SEEDS, Social Empowerment and Equity in Disability and Gender in South Tyrol. It's a 2-year research project funded by the province of Bolzano, and it's an intersectional socio-legal research project that wants to investigate how gender and disability shapes rights effectiveness and access to services in the context of South Tyrol, and also would like to produce scientific and policy relevant knowledge co-created with local communities. This project also wants to align local and national disability framework to human rights standard, in particular the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, but at the same time also advancing a more innovative and intersectional approach in the field of disability human rights law. My research project draws from mainly 4 different theoretical approaches. For sure, it's deeply connected to intersectionality as theorized by Crenshaw and further by other scholars in the last 30 years. The idea behind it is that gender and disability co-construct each other and shape social processes, producing different and layered form of inequalities that in particular affect women and LGBTIQ plus people with disability. The research is based on a critical view of disability and also human rights-based approach. So disability is not treated as an inherent condition of the individual, rather is seen as a socially constructed condition and a matter of rights, equality, and self-determination. The project understand inequalities as embedded in a broader social tissues made by power relationship and try to understand how norms, institution, and also the legal dimension contribute in creating this different form of marginalization. And in the end, the project adopt this critical legal perspective. So, SEEDS would like to understand the gap between formal rights, the governance framework, and the lived realities of people with disability in the context of South Tyrol. Of course, gender and disability, as we mentioned earlier, are very much interconnected and co-construct each other and give rise to specific form of social exclusions that are very much connected to social norms such as ableism, sexism, and heteronormativity and cisnormativity. In the end, what sociological doctrine scholarship already shown is that these dynamics result in a peculiar form of marginalization, specifically invisibility of the gender dimension of disability, reduced autonomy, also barriers to education, employment, and participation, limited access and more exposure to gender-based violence, limited access to services of prevention and support, and also sexual and reproductive health services. And in the end, the gender dimension of disability result in constraint on self-determination and bodily autonomy for people. The goals of the project are mainly 3 and are interconnected. First of all, in this phase, the first phase, because the project started in January 2000 2026. The aim is to assess the legal framework of South Tyrol and critically evaluate it under a gender-sensitive perspective, also comparing it to national and also other countries' best practices and standards. Then the fieldwork will be aimed at investigating the lived experience of women and LGBTIQ plus individuals with disability in South Tyrol, with a specific focus on gender-based violence and sexual and reproductive health. And to conclude, the project aims at developing evidence-based policy and recommendation that are based on the lived experience, but then they will be also be constructed with relevant local stakeholders. What is interesting about this project in the context of South Tyrol is exactly the specific and peculiar dynamics of this territory, because actually South Tyrol is an independent province and in Italy with specific and peculiar also legislative powers. And here we can find a very advanced disability framework when it comes to the implementation of the CRPD. But what I noticed is a complete lack of the gender perspective. At the same time, South Tyrol is very well known for its strong grassroots organization and high civil society participation, and has a long history with protection of minority rights. And developing legal standards for the protection of minority groups in society. When it comes to the methodology, this project involved a multi-method qualitative approach that combines socio-legal critical analysis with, of course, doctrine coming from feminist epistemologies. So a reflexive approach, but also a situated and positionality based when carrying out research and also involving with people with disability in the field. I am a scholar deeply involved in LGBTIQ activism and also disability activism myself. And as already mentioned, the project embrace an intersectional perspective. When it comes to the whole research process, the process will start with this critical legal analysis under the view of international standard and the jurisprudence of the committee of the CRPD. Then there will be qualitative interviews with women and LGBTIQ persons with disability. From this lived experience, policy recommendation will be drafted and will be discussed in a stakeholder workshop to be finalized under a policy proposal. I would like to tell you a little bit more about the fieldwork and the qualitative data, because this is the phase that I am currently, that I am currently working on. I just started the field work a couple of weeks ago. And the fieldwork will be finalized by January 2027. I will carry out 25 semi-structured interviews with people with disability who identify as women and or LGBTIQ plus in the context of South Tyrol. I will use both purposive and also snowballing sample combined with adaptive adjustment in order to ensure diversity and representation, both in the experience of disability, in identities, but also in minority language belonging in the context of South Tyrol. The interviews will explore different topics such as identity, self-determination, sexual and reproductive health, experiences of violence, and also political imaginaries. They will be carried out in either Italian, German, or English. Reasonable accommodation for participation will be provided and this is part of the research methodology, which is embedded in emancipatory approaches that are typical of disability studies. The material, both the informed consent and also the interview guidelines and so on, for accessibility reason, will be always available both in standard language but also in easy to read language. The data would be then analyzed by inductive thematic analysis with the support of in vivo. I would like also to mention that apart from the most traditional form of dissemination, such as public events, conferences, um, scientific articles, presentation, and so on, the project also would like to develop a social media campaign. The campaign is a participatory and research-based experience of dissemination, grounded in the lived experience of the people that will take part in the project. The idea behind it is to challenge the actual invisibilization of women LGBTIQ plus persons with disability and challenge the widespread stereotypes around their experience and contribute to the broader cultural change. The campaign will be a visual and textual campaign, which will be, sorry, supported by Lebenshilfe office in order to develop it also in easy to read formats. And will be illustrated by a community-based disabled and queer artist, Elia Zeno Covolan, who is based in Trento. The campaign will amplify the voices and the testimonies of the people that took part in the interviews. So there will be quotation from the interviews accompanied by illustration. And the campaign will be developed in the final part of the project. To conclude a little bit, what are the most innovative aspects of this project? I believe that there are four different aspects that seeds might contribute to. First of all, the epistemic one, because the project aims at addressing the fragmentation across legal, sociological, and gender and disability scholar, trying to bridge different disciplines and bridge different kind of knowledge into a united framework. The empirical gap by generating qualitative evidence on lived experience and also structural barriers faced by women and LGBTIQ plus people with disability. From the methodological point of view, actually, this project would like to advance participatory and co-produced research design, integrating accessibility as a fundamental component of disability research. And finally, innovation when it comes to the legal aspect and policy-making aspect, because this project would like to understand how the CRPD can be implemented at the local level, but would also like to advance the CRPD framework in order to encompass also in the notion of gender factors related to so sexual orientation, gender identity, and sexual characteristics. That's all on my side. Here you can find the Instagram channel of the project, the website, and so on. And let's keep in touch. Thank you for this opportunity.